Hello and welcome to my final project presentation. My name is Katie Muldoon. Okay, so this project's going to be about the MBTI, which is the Myers-Briggs type indicator. So Myers-Briggs personality types are the four character sequences that generally try and attempt to tell you something about how you act as a person and your various tendencies and leanings. So it's like INTJ, ENFP. You've probably taken a quiz like on BuzzFeed or in like middle school or something having to do with this. So let's get into it. The data. The original data set that I downloaded was from Kaggle. So each entry has a Myers-Briggs type indicator, which is the four character item in the leftmost column. And then it had one long string of concatenated social media posts. So for each person, it has their type and the last X social media posts they've made over a certain period of time. I'm not entirely sure how long that period of time was, but I'm certain that each post has at least the most recent 20 posts. So, the initial exploration with this data. So initially all I had were the type and the post, and so there was not much I could see from there. But I decided to make a bar graph of how many, or of the frequency of all the types. So if you look at the graph, it shows it's definitely not a uniform distribution. Definitely a lot more introvert personality types than extrovert. Also definitely a lot more prevalent the N personality type, which is the intuitive leaning. A lot of the ES and IS are not heavily represented, so I'm guessing that it's going to be really hard for my model to pin people into those categories, because if they're less represented than in the training set, it's definitely not going to tend to mark people correctly as that, but that's something that we'll see later on. I also decided to add dummy codes for presence of each letter. So basically, the way that these work is you either have an I or an E as the first one, you either have an N or an S as the second one, either a T or an F as the last one, or a J or a P as as the very last one. So it's an either or situation. So I wanted to see if there was a prevalence between any of these characters, and it didn't look like there was an overwhelming correlation between any of them. The most correlated would be J and I, but still at 0.16, it's very low, so I wasn't inclined to say that there was any correlation that screamed out at me or needed to be accounted for. So I derived new features from my text parsing, the number of exclamation points and periods per post, the number of links per post, and the average length of each post. I thought that these were things that outlined social or personality indicators in people, and I thought that they would be good features to try and start a simple analysis on. I would have liked to add something a little more qualitative, like word complexity score and number of adjectives, but I couldn't get the API to work in time. This is how I went about separating and deriving the features. I used a regular expression, and I used a couple of helper functions to delimit and count the occurrences of objects in the original post data frame. And then I decided to store the original data. I loaded into a data frame in my R Markdown file, and then all of the derived features